Hello everyone. So in our NEP Scholar topic at the moment, we're kind of looking at biomechanics of running different forces on it, and we're trying to link in kind of the S&C that we're doing in the club and where that fits with the science. We're looking at carbon shoes, we're looking at the effects of different shoes and how that's changed over the last couple of years, the kind of impact on the body and how it's helping us run faster as well, so the positives and negatives. But I wanted to make this video with this new whiteboard I've got to everyone in the club, not just the ones who are on the Scholar Program, to kind of help understand why we do the certain things that we do in the club and the kind of things that I'm promoting, okay? Some of the things on here might look a bit technical, but I'm going to try and explain it in an easy to understand way that you can apply to what you're doing in your week already. All I'm doing is explaining the things that I'm putting on the plan. So at the top here we've got what's known as a force velocity curve, and we're kind of explaining here the different types of S&C conditioning weight training that we're doing. Because up here, this is like 1 rep max, so this is like maximum force, what you can lift with just one weight once. It's a very low velocity because it's going to take a long time to lift. To be honest, runners, distance runners especially, we're not really going to be working in this kind of range very often. As a runner, we want to shift this curve to the right because we want to run at higher velocities. We want to run faster. Yeah, running itself doesn't really produce that much force, and when you think about it, you're taking about 1,000 steps per mile. And if you're running a marathon, that's quite a long way. We're not lifting or resisting against a very high amount of force. So really, this type of stuff down here is more important, but I'll explain why we can't just do that straight away. So anyway, this curve kind of explains the different S&C that we're doing. Sometimes we might lift at 70-85% of 1 rep max for our heavy stuff. This is important because it allows us to do some of the plyometrics that we do later on, which I'll explain. This 50% 1 rep max range is really good for developing power because it's a good mix between force and velocity. And we all want to be more powerful athletes. This is what helps us run faster and achieve greater times. That's kind of like maybe jump squats, squat jumps, counter movement jumps, things like that. This under 30% 1 rep max, this might be like medicine ball throws. I'm thinking kind of like slower plyometrics, kind of like jumps and things like that. And then the bodyweight stuff you could think about hops, you could think about drop jumps, you could think about box jumps, jumping on a step and back down like we've got on some of the S&Cs that we're doing. So yeah, so the whole point is to shift this curve further to the right. Now if we only focus on slow movements, like slow heavy movements, like heavy squats, deadlifts, things like that, lots of lunges but slow, you kind of just become a slow moving athlete that can produce some force. You're not really turning it into running speed. Yes, you might keep injury free below this line, but you're not necessarily getting any faster. So then you could say that type of S&C doesn't actually make you a quicker runner. And then we've got some stuff, so like 50%, if you focus on like 50% of 1 rep max and above only, and you don't kind of do the other stuff, then you might get fast, but then you could get weak, so you're not strong. So you kind of need a mix of all of it, okay? And this is what I'm going to explain down here. We'll leave this bit to the end. In NEP, we have different types of S&C. We have the circuits and the hardcore, okay? So this is like conditioning. This is so you don't get injured, and this is so you can do the kind of more fancy stuff. You can't do plyometrics and heavy lifting if you're not doing circuits and core and kind of even the drills and the yoga and all that stuff, because you're not going to be strong enough to be able to do the more complex movements that demand kind of more force. So this is like a line of potential, and this would be 100% potential, but of course no one ever reaches 100% potential, so the line is a little bit lower. So we need to do the circuits, we need to do the hardcore to be able to do the more heavy lifting stuff, which I've got as strength. Okay, this is kind of more up here. So that's like your heavy lifting, your lunges, your kind of classic stuff, hamstring curls on a machine or whatever it is. And then that allows us to do more of the plyometrics and the more technical drills and the more higher velocity stuff that is more kind of suited to running faster, okay? But if you jump in and do plyometrics straight away, bearing in mind the drop jump is about 12 times body weight, okay, and running itself is about 3 to 4 times body weight in terms of forces when you land, you're going to get injured. You can't just do drop jumps, box jumps, and hopping around and bounding and all that type of stuff if you haven't done all the conditioning and the strength work. So that's why it's all important. There's not just one thing that we want you to do. And obviously you can't do all this stuff in 1 week. So that's why we have periodization, and I could draw another thing on here. It would be a big pyramid, which we all know. And that's about going through the base phase, the preparation phase, the specific phase, and then you get to your big end result. So you want to do more of the conditioning and the kind of heavier lifting stuff in the base phase. And you just want to do a light amount of plyometrics. It might be like speed skaters, it might be jumps on a step that's quite small, even things like jumping jacks, you know, or little hops basically, or muscle drills. And then obviously at this point in time you're also building up your miles, your volume in the week's getting bigger, and you may be doing a lot of hill training as well, which also comes into kind of the plyometrics and kind of working in this power zone as well, because you're moving against force and gravity. And then as you get into more preparation phase, you can start to bring more of these plyometrics in because you've got the gains from the conditioning, you're not as injury prone, and you've done some heavy lifting, so you can move a good amount of force, and then you can start to translate that force into a higher velocity. And then later on, when you get in the specific phase, when the sessions are getting more demanding, let's say you're a marathon runner, you're doing 20 miles at marathon pace, is an exaggerated session. 10k runner, you might be doing 5 times 2k at 10k pace. You know, you're a miler, you're doing 12/400s off a minute at mile pace. Those sessions are really demanding, and you don't feel like going in the gym and doing squats at 85% your 1 minute max after doing 12/400s all out there. And you don't really want to be doing lots of reps and conditioning, you know, 30 reps of squats in a week when you're doing some of your bigger sessions. That's when you need to do more plyometrics. But then you've got, if you've done it right, you've got the base of the conditioning and the strength to be able to do the plyometrics that is going to get the better results. And plyos, when you get used to them, they don't really take too much out of you, and you can kind of, you know, bounce back from it the next day or 2 days after, and it doesn't really affect your running sessions. But right now, if you're in base and you're doing the circuits and you're doing a lot of the lifting, you're going to be quite sore a lot of the time, but that's completely normal because we're not racing that much, are we? In base phase, most people don't even race, or you might just race a couple of B races, C races, and they're not really that important. So you're not really judging your performance anyway. Yeah, we wouldn't do that type of work when you want to be on your game in an air race. Just over here, I've kind of explained a lot of the studies, so this always makes me laugh. People will spend £300 on a new pair of Nike Alpha Flies that will get about 3.5% gains in terms of running velocity, okay? So if you run an 8 minute mile, you're going to be running 7:44 pace. If you run an 8 minute mile in a normal shoe, and you put Nike Alpha Fly on, 7:44 is about the same type of effort. If you want to run a 5 minute mile in a normal shoe, wearing Nike Alpha Fly, you could run 4:49.5 seconds, okay? Because you're looking at about 3.5% difference in running velocity. If you do a plyometric program, 6 to 12 weeks, providing you have sufficient strength and conditioning to actually do the program and not break down, you could be looking at a 3.7% based on the average of a couple of studies in terms of running velocity. So, but people will spend £300 on this and they won't jump off a box and do some hops for 3.7%, which could be, you know, anywhere between 10 to 20 seconds per mile difference for the same effort, which is quite a lot, and I think that's worth doing if you want to be the best you can be and reach your potential up here. But yeah, this is quite a cool little thing. So like running itself places 3 to 4 times forces of body weight on each step, you know, and that's different depending on kind of how you run, your biomechanics. That's a whole different other element. But things like plyometrics is very, very taxing. So a drop jump can place 12 times the forces of body weight doing the jump. So that's why it's very important to have this base behind you to be able to do it. But it's also an injury prevention mechanism when you can integrate this into your routine, because that's going to help you absorb the force of running. And I think a lot of people are getting injured because they're kind of doing a lot of the conditioning stuff, the slow movement stuff, but you're kind of not conditioned to absorb force running hard. And we see people get injured a lot after a race, because a race, of course, is going to be the most stress you're going to put on your body kind of in the block. And I've had this personally myself in the last couple of blocks as well. But I've had a couple of niggles and I haven't been able to do as many plyometrics as I want. I know I need to be doing it. So I'm trying to incorporate more of that into the base, as in just little bits, so that when I come to it, I can do it better. And I'm really nailing the conditioning and the strength stuff religiously. Plyometrics is an injury risk, but it's also injury prevention if you get it right. But it's really important that you follow what I'm telling you and you listen to what I'm putting on the plans. When I say paddy circuits on Monday night, I want paddy circuits on Monday night, okay? But yeah, I'm going to progress in the Scholar program and talk about, the next topic I want to talk about is the shoes. Because I think that's such an interesting topic when you're looking at the forces on the body and how things have changed in the last couple of years, but also how people's ankles and mechanics is changing for the worse, because they're relying on it. And it's kind of working out the right balance between using non-carbon and carbon to get the best out of it, and I think that's a fascinating topic which we'll talk more on. If you've got any questions on kind of this type of stuff, I've tried not to go into too sciencey, because yeah, I mean, if you've come from a running club, the traditional running scene doesn't really talk about S&C in much detail, and it's still not a very accepted thing, even though there's tons of studies and there's tons of people who are, the elites are doing it, and everyone who's doing any decent running is understands this stuff, but it's still not accepted, and we're trying to convert people. But education is the way to do that, and if you understand what's happening, you're more likely to do it. And I know some people don't enjoy it, but when you think about the benefits and how it can change you and how it can keep you injury free and doing what you love, I think it's worth it. But I'll carry on this next video talking about the shoes in more detail, and we'll bring up some studies on it and kind of what's going on. Okay, I hope that kind of makes some sense, and I'm sure you'll have some questions for it. Okay, thank you guys.